What is up, guys? NinjaNick333. We are back with round 6 now of the Oceania International Pokemon Trading Card Game Championships. Looks like we got Rahul ready on the right. And Pedro Pertusi on the left here. Looks like Rahul is playing Regis, Pedro is playing Lugia. So, man, it's been 6 rounds, and we've seen, let's see, 2, 3, 5. So, yeah, 6 rounds, 6 Lugia decks. The only round we haven't seen a Lugia deck on either side of the board was round 1, but there was a mirror, so that more than made up for it. So, looks like Lugia, Pedro, is the one who was able to win the coin flip, so we are going right in with the Capture Energy onto the active Lugia V. We are likely going to get something along the lines of Oranguru, maybe Dunsparce or Manaphy, since those are both very good against the Reggie matchup. Usually the card that you are most fearful of is the Regieleki that is able to do 120 and then 40 to 2 bench Pokemon, which with a choice belt can one-shot a Lugia and then also two-shot your benched Dunsparce. The other Regieleki can also just snipe the Dunsparce off the bench. So if you are able to get that Manaphy down first, like he just did, and then get the Dunsparce afterwards, you are completely immune, basically, to the threat of the Regieleki, and it becomes just as much of a threat as any other Reggie that is in the deck. Looks like we already had the Oranguru in hand, so the Manaphy was definitely the perfect call there. We are going to use the Monkey to switch the top card of our deck with the card in our hand, bench another Lugia V, and just pass it over. So in the event that you do have both the Dunsparce and the Manaphy in play, having Lugia as an attacker is pretty good because the Regis can't one-shot Lugia VStar in that situation. Lugia VStar with no weakness is not a VMAX, so Regigigas can't one-shot it. Regieleki with a choice belt or Regidrago with a choice belt only does 190. So, believe you resist Regirock, maybe? So we do have the Capture Energy. We are getting down the Regieleki and the Regirock. The Regieleki off of an Ultra Ball that discarded a Twin Energy, and it looks like a Boss's Orders as well. You want to make sure you get energies in the discard pile if you are playing Regis, because that is exactly how the deck functions. As soon as you have one of each of the 6 Reggie Pokemon in play, you are able to put 3 energies from your discard pile onto one of your Pokemon. That can include special energies, so you are able to do that. It is the effect on the Regigigas specifically, so if you are able to scoop up net and place down the Regigigas again, you can use that ability twice in a turn. But you do need all of the other Regis out as well. Drago, Aleki, Ice, Rock, and Steel. So on paper, this is a very favorable matchup for Regis. However, that is not necessarily the case. Lugia is just kind of good against everything. It is very much the best deck in the format. And if we can see Pedro get his Dunsparce down as well, as he is hopefully playing, we will be able to just see probably an easy win. But the big thing is, if he does get the Dunsparce down, he'll only have access to 1 Archeops. So, having the 2 Lugias down is a little problematic, because he's not going to be able to have room for the Dunsparce. But then again, if you go into that situation, you basically only have bench sitters in play, and then it gets a little dicey. You usually want to have a second attacker starting to get ready to go on the bench if you're Lugia. You can just power one up out of nowhere. However, that usually costs an energy to retreat. So you can do something like promote Archeops or the Manaphy, attach an energy for turn there, and then retreat into whatever attacker you currently bench. Looks like we are going to be able to discard some Archeops here. We are using the Evolution Incense to get that Lugia VStar. We are going to play the Pumpkaboo to remove that Stadium card and get one Archeops out. So this is that dreaded one Archeops game. It's not necessarily over for Lugia if they only get one Archeops. But since there is no Dunsparce in play, that Archeops can be one-shot by a Regieleki. So that Regieleki is already on the bench. And you saw Rahul point to the V-Star marker, and then the judge took it away for him. Rahul's like, I'm not playing any V-Star Pokemon, can I just get rid of this marker so that it's not on play? And the judge says yes. That is actually against the rules. You have to have your marker out to signify whether or not you've used your V-Star ability. It doesn't, like, it's not public knowledge that your deck doesn't have any V-Star abilities, so you have to have that marker in play. Otherwise, it causes sort of an irreparable game state. But we are just going to do some more Regi things, ordinary rotting some Regis back into the deck. We are going to research and draw some more cards, discard some energies. Now, Rahul wants his full 6 Regis in play. That is something that is very possible to do turn 1. I have gotten 3 Auroras in discard, or 2 Auroras and a Gift Energy in discard, along with all 6 Regis in play at the same time, but Rahul is on his 2nd turn already, and he has not gotten there yet. I'm not sure what's going on. It looks like maybe he had 2 discard piles at the same time, and now the judge confiscated his 2nd discard pile. Don't really know what's going on here. So Rahul currently has no discard pile. It's in the judge's hands. Again, don't really know what's been going on with the stream during this tournament, but it's been a bit of a mess in my opinion. They're just letting a lot of really sloppy play go through and allowing some very odd situations that usually aren't allowed, that are just like the V-Star marker. Okay, Rahul got his discard back finally, so that's good. We are going to Quick Ball away. Is that a research? I can't really tell what that card is. Maybe that's a Serena? I'm trying to read the name on the top of the card because I can't see the art at all. I think it might be a Serena. We do have all 6 Regis in play now. He was able to assemble the Regis. Unfortunately, he only has an Aurora and Twin in his discard pile. That is enough to retreat if he wants to do that. He does not have another Aurora or Speed Lightning in hand, but he is just going to pass there. Oh, he is using the first attack. I believe it's... I don't remember what it's called, but it does 20 damage, and plus 30 because of the choice spell is 100. So that does soften up the Lugia pretty well. So that does put some pressure on Pedro here. Also important to note, Pedro did utilize the V-Guard energy early on that active Lugia V-Star. That's pretty good because the V-Guard energy is only colorless in this matchup. So since Lugia's damage output doesn't really matter, you don't have to do more damage with powerful colorless energies. You want to save those for your Archeops. So you can do 140, which is enough to knock out any of the Regis not named Gigas. It's good to conserve that. So you use the V-Guard energy on something where the damage output doesn't really matter. You could have also used it as a way to retreat something later in the game, but I think getting it on the Lugia right here early is a lot better. And I think did Rahul's discard pile disappear again? Because it looked like, I don't know. I'm just distracted again. So we are KO. Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I actually had to take a day and recover from that previous round, because my god. Yeah, there's Rahul's discard pile again. Why was that all the way over there? I'm just so... I'm just so confused. So we're going to see Rahul is going to have to get another Regieleki into play. He's not necessarily attacking with Regieleki this turn, however, in order to power up any of his Regis, he does need all 6 Regis in play for the Gigas to work. So since there is no Regieleki in play, you cannot use the Ancient Wisdom on Regigigas. We are going to see a Marnie from Rahul that will disrupt Pedro's hand and hopefully allow Rahul to be able to draw into a Regieleki. Since one is in the discard pile, he does have to draw one of his potentially 2 others. Some Regi decks only play 2 Regielekis, some play 3. I tend to like the 3. Same with the Gigas, some play 3 Gigas. Usually when you're playing 3 Eleki, you're playing a 2-1 split. You're playing 2 of the Terra Spark and 1 of the Targeted Bolt, aka Bad Leki, the one that we saw in the control match earlier in the tournament. Looks like we Evo Incense for an Archeops, and I think we Primal Turboed the Capture Energy onto the Archeops. And we are just going to swing and hit again. So this is going very well for Pedro in the fact that he is not knocked out yet. If Rahul was able to get that knockout previously, they would be on almost even footing. But now Rahul is really back. Rahul will be behind 1 prize card. Rahul will be able to potentially knock out the Lugia VStar and take 2 prizes if he can get the attack off this turn, but Pedro's already taken 3. Although if he can do the Regieleki Choice Belt on the other Lugia V, he can get a very easy one-shot on that and set the prize trade back into his favor later in the game. The Path to the Peak does also come out. Usually you want to see that early. You want it to stay in play early so that the Lugia cannot use its V-Star power Summoning Star to get out the Archeops from the discard pile and essentially cheat them into play since they are stage 2s. Normally you have to evolve a Pokemon twice. You normally need an item card fossil that then evolves into the restored Pokemon Archon and then evolve into Archeops. But nope, Lugia does not care. He is too powerful. He had his own move. He actually had 2 movies. Lugia was the star of 2 different movies. The Power of One and the Power of All, I believe, is the other one. I always like to tell people that are around my age, if you're thinking of dating a girl and she was born before the release of Pokemon the Movie 2000, The Power of One, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't go there. Leonardo DiCaprio would, but, you know, you don't have to be like him. We are seeing an Aurora attach for turn that discards the Archeops out of the hand. Good to thin that. We are also seeing the Tempest Dive is removing the Path to the Peak as well. That is pretty standard for Lugia to do. You do not want the Path in play in case you want to play the Luminion later. But the Path really disrupts Lugia mostly for preventing the Summoning Star, which has already taken place. So not too big of a deal that the Path came out of play for Rahul, but he still might want another one just in case the Luminion comes down. But then again, does Pedro really want to bench a third 2-prizer in this matchup? It was also very unfortunate that Rahul has attacked this Lugia twice, and it is still not knocked out. Rahul's now behind 4 prize cards. So again, he needs to finish off this Lugia, and he needs to take the knockout with this Regieleki. So what's going to have to happen is the ideal situation would be if he was able to retreat into the Regieleki and fully power it up. And if the Manaphy wasn't in play, he would be able to take a one-shot on the benched Lugia V, but also snipe that Lugia V-Star for the knockout. But that's why that Manaphy is so important. The Manaphy is almost better than the Dunsparce. against the Regielekis, so you usually do want to have those first, just because the one Regieleki can only attack benched Pokemon. And yeah, Rahul knows at this point, he's like, yeah, I am way too far behind, so I'm just going to scoop, and we are going to go straight into the next game. It is technically finals day when I'm recording this, so I do know somewhat how some of the players are doing. So I do know whether or not Rahul wins this game. He does end up being at least in day 2. But if you have not seen any of the results, I will not spoil anything more than that. Rahul is again doing his first deck search of the game. Hopefully he is identifying every single one of the energy and Pokemon that are in his deck. And nope, looks like he decides not to really prize check. In Regi, I think that it is 100% necessary to prize check when you search your deck. You need to know which Regis are prized so that you can play your ordinary rods at the proper time. Sometimes you want to save your ordinary rods for later, just in case you're unsure which Pokemon is going to get knocked out if your opponent plays a boss or something. But if you only have, say, one Regidrago, and that gets knocked out, you have an ordinary rod in hand, you don't want to hold it, you want to play it immediately. So, without the knowledge of how many of each Pokemon is in his deck, he can hinder himself. He also should be counting the Aurora energies as well, at the very least. So we are going to see, looks like Pedro starts Pumpkaboo. Since he is going second, Rahul is more likely to be able to get the first attack off, so having the Pumpkaboo in the active spot is better by far than a Lugia, because that is only a one prize Pokemon. Unfortunately, as we can see, the Path to the Peak is already in play, and since it was started with that Pumpkaboo, you can't bench the Pumpkaboo in order to discard the Path to the Peak. That is what the Pumpkaboo is there for. Also, Pedro is playing the Trick or Trade version. You can see the orange Pikachu pumpkin head stamp on there. We do see the Dunsparce has come out now off of a Quick Ball, discarding an Yveltal. I do like the discard of the Yveltal here because against Regis, you do not want to use something that uses that much energy to attack just to trade one prizes. It's a lot better to just attack with the Lugia. Especially with the Dunsparce in play, you can prevent the Regieleki from doing a lot. But the important thing to note here is that since he does not have the Manaphy in play yet, if there is a Boss's Orders or a Serena from Rahul, this could potentially be a turn where the Lugia is knocked out and both the Dunsparce and the Pumpkaboo take 40 damage. And then Pedro would be in a world of hurt. But of course, Rahul will have to draw what is called the nuts in order to get that. It is highly unlikely he's going to be able to get all the way there. I don't think he has much, if any, energy in the discard pile at this point. He keeps discarding item and all different sorts of trainer cards for his ball search. So he's not really getting any energies in there. He does have a Capture and a Speed Lightning on this Regieleki, but that's still one short of being able to be enough to attack. So he is going to need to get that last Regi in play. And looks like he just goes for the Scoop Up Net. He might go for the Regidrago to draw more cards. Looks like that's what he's going to do. So he has one card in hand. He is able to draw until he has 4 cards. Then he is... Oh, he actually does have the Auroras in... Oh my god, he actually has everything. So he does not have the Gift Energy in rotation yet, but he does have a Capture Energy. So he has the attack with the Regidrago. So a little lucky that he was able to get that just off of that Regidrago for 3 cards. I thought for a second Pedro was extending the hand to say that he lost this game, but nope, he was just asking for the discard pile. Looks like Pedro is going to go for a Marnie. Rahul's hand was not very big, so I don't think that's going to disrupt him too much. Pedro is just really using it because he is looking for that Lugia VStar. He needs to get that in play in order to get the Archeops in play, in order to get the energy in play, in order to attack. It's a lot of get this to do that in this deck, I'll tell you. And also, he needs a way to remove the path to the peak, too. So even if he gets the Lugia V-Star, he may not be able to Summoning Star this turn. I am considering Lugia myself for Knoxville. It's just been having a lot of solid placements. Top 4s, top 8s, finals, wins, in all sorts of different regionals. 30% of the field, even when you're trying to do everything you can to hate on the deck, it's still doing well. Even better than Mew, when everybody was playing like nothing but darkness Pokemon in order to try to beat it. I feel like Lugia in its prime here is better than Mew was in its prime. Mew is still very solid, and it is my hard second pick. But that is just because I love Mew so much. Your judges really have to stick against Lost Box in that deck, and they just were not doing it in Orlando for me. So what are we gonna do? Oh, looks like... Okay, so the Rahul did use the escape rope. So that does force the other Lugia V-Star up. Pedro does not want to sacrifice the Dunsparce that easily, so he's going to let the Lugia just take free damage. I mean, in the situation that he's currently in, I mean, what are you going to do? He is just bricking super hard. And Reggie is just one of those decks that high rolls. You either get everything you need or you don't. It's not the type of deck that'll win you a tournament because it is just so inconsistent, but on the times where you get it going, man, it gets going. We do see Irida come out from Pedro here, is going to get a Luminion and a Lost Vacuum. So Irida, in a very good card in Lugia. I'm glad that somebody had the thought to make that tech. It is a great way to get choice belts in the mirror, so your Lugia can one-shot the other Lugia through a V-Guard energy. It is fantastic for getting the Lost Vacuum against those decks that play Path to the Peak, just like this Regis, as you can see. It is doing work here and now. It can grab you Canceling Cologne if that's something that you decide to play. If you want to use your Raikou against a Manaphy. I don't think Canceling Cologne is very good in Lugia in my personal opinion. However, it's, you know, it's not bad. You can even use it just to get an Evolution Incense to search for an Archeops if you already have the ball card in hand, or vice versa. Get the ball card if you already have the Archeops or Evolution Incense in hand. So just very versatile in this deck. And you could always grab Manaphy and Luminion with it. So Luminion for a supporter for the next turn, or Manaphy to prevent that bench damage. As you can see, since Pedro did search for the Luminion V, and he doesn't have the Manaphy out yet, I think that tells you what's in his prize card. I didn't pay attention too much for the prize cards. They were only on the screen for but a second, so I did not get to memorize those very well. But I'm going to assume that his Manaphy is in fact prized. You would definitely want it here after you see this Dunsparce already took 40 damage. It is 20 away from being knocked out now. We have a fully powered Lugia V on the bench. We have finally the Lugia V Star in the active. They finally put the Lost Zone Cat, and we do see the Manaphy finally comes down, so it looks like it was not prized. He just already had it in hand, I suppose? KO! So Lugia does end up taking a knockout. Unfortunately, this active Lugia V-Star has already taken damage. So pretty much anything in Rahul's deck will be able to finish this Lugia VStar off for the knockout. Especially this Regidrago that is active. Regidrago does pretty much hit the hardest out of all the Regis. It does 160. Regigigas does 150, but it does 300 if it's a VMAX that it's attacking. Regice does only 70, but it can also prevent a V from attacking it next turn. Regirock hits 140, which is enough to one-shot Arceus VStar. Registeel usually two shots Ice Riders because it does minus damage for each of your opponent's retreat cost. So it is doing like minus 100 or something. Because Lugia has a 2 retreat cost. So Lugia goes down, Rahul takes 2 more prize cards, goes down to 3 prize cards remaining. Also, Pedro is our first Brazilian player of the stream, it looks like. We've had a couple of US players now, Rahul's not the first. But we have seen a lot of Australian versus Australia versus Japan, so. And we see yet another knockout. These turns are happening fairly fast for these both of these players. The Lugia V just does an attack. The 130 plus the powerful energy minus the double turbo energy makes it still 130. You have the choice belt, but also that does not do anything to the Regis. The whole Regi deck is single prizers. It is just Regis. You do not play any other Pokemon. There was a time where some players were trying to play some cute techs like Eviltal with Thornton in the deck, and as you can see, that is not very good. Because, yeah, sure, you can attack with the Eviltal, but then you could just, like, boss around it, and then now your Regis don't do anything, or you can Echoing Horn that Pokemon back. Just a whole bunch of different reasons why it's just not as good. My favorite play to do against Regis with Mew is when they missed a Regi for the turn, and I Echoing Horn one of the Regis they already have their bench back from their discard pile onto their bench, and force them to find a Scoop Up net. That's always fun. Because they can't have 2 of the same Regi. It has to be 6 unique Regis in play in order to use Regigigas' ability. We are quick balling away another a Twin Energy here. Twin Energy is great for powering up that Regigigas. It does have a 5 attack cost. It is all colorless, however, the Twin Energy essentially counts as 2. So if you're able to get 2 twins and maybe a gift energy from your discard pile, Regigigas is able to power itself up in 1 turn. Or you can get 3 energy, one of which being a twin, and then attach for turn, and that powers it up in 1 turn as well. So that is the reason why stuff like that happens. Looks like we are going for exactly that. We are going for the Gift Energy, Double Twin Energy to be able to attack with the Regigigas here. Looks like Rahul either did not want to attack with the Regice, or he was unable to by not having the energy, but I would think he would have the energy since he's already attacked with Drago. Regigigas is unfortunately not going to be able to take the knockout since he does not have a choice belt. So now what Pedro is most likely going to do is just retreat his Lugia V into something like the Archeops. If he can use Primal Turbo to put 2 powerful energies on this Archeops that already has the capture energy on it, that will be able to one-shot the Gigas. Looks like we are going for Heat, Fire, and Aurora instead. So looks like that Archeops will not be attacking this turn. We are just going to stick in with the Lugia V, and we are going to let Rahul take an additional 2 prizes next turn when it could have just been 1. You do want to keep your Archeopses on the bench so that you can keep using 2 of them a turn, but I believe at this point in the game, enough prize cards have been taken that you can essentially sacrifice an Archeops in order to save yourself from being prize raced that hard. Rahul does only have 3 prize cards remaining, and the Manaphy and Dunsparce are both in play, so you're not super threatened by a Regieleki, especially since he has quote-unquote Battlelecki, which can only attack the bench, and since, of course, Manaphy is in play, not only will it not be able to hit for weakness, which it can't because it can only attack the bench, but it also can't attack the bench, because Manaphy Dunsparce on the bench just really shuts down Reggie. It looks like we do see the retreat, and it just knocks out in the Aleki instead. It looks like that's the route he wanted to go for, so that is going to allow Rahul to be able to put the other Aleki back into play, which is a much better attacker. I'm not quite sure if that was the play, but if there's already at least one Regieleki in the discard, then maybe? We do see the Ordinary Rod come out from Rahul. He is able to shuffle. I think he shuffled Aleki Drago back in. I did miss it a little bit. So Regigigas, since the... Yeah, so the... Oh boy. The Regieleki is already back in play. We get another fully powered up Pokemon, even if Rahul is unable to find a Reggie in the next turn that he needs. He will still have something that he is able to attack with. He chooses the Regidrago to fully power up because he knows that that Archeops is most likely the next attacker coming up, and he wants to be able to one-shot that. Archeops has 150 HP. The Regidrago hits for 160, so that is enough. The other Regis do not do enough to one-shot an Archeops. The only other one that does is Gigas, but that is the one that's active, and that is going to be likely knocked out by an Archeops. And of course, Pedro is now down to that one Archeops there. I think it would have been better to knock out that Gigas, because that was able to knock out the Archeops, and so is the Drago. So I would have wanted to take out one of those two if I'm attacking with the Archeops. We are going to go for the double Aurora energy. I think Pedro is just not in a good position right now. Rahul's ahead 1 prize card and only needs 2 left to win the game, and you have a very, very heavily damaged Lugia V on the bench here. So Rahul is basically just 1 boss's orders or Serena away from winning the game. Even at this point, if Rahul was somehow able to attack with the opposite Aleki than what he has in play, he would be able to boss or Serena up the Luminion and knock it out as well. Even though it shares the same lightning weakness as Lugia, it is not a colored Pokemon, or it is not a colorless Pokemon. And as you can see, Rahul had the Gusting card, so he is just able to do the thing. And his VStar marker is back for some reason, as it should be. Pedro is going to pile stack to waste time. I guess he wants to tie this round. Oh, Rahul is doing it as well. Looks like he wants to tie this round as well. I am curious to see if Rahul can prize double of the same Reggie. That would be pretty fun. Nope, just 1 rock. Nothing too relevant from either player, really. The powerful colorless energy being prized might come up late game, but it's probably fine because he'll still have access to 3 of them. But he'll want to know that in case he needs to discard 1 early in the game. He'll want to know if it's affordable to do so or not. Why are we at this angle? Okay, we want to do a fun zoom-in shot, even though we've been watching the match already. So we do have Pedro going first. He is able to attach the capture to the Stoutland that he started. Stoutland is probably the worst starter to... the worst Pokemon to start with in this particular matchup. Because Stoutland is weak to fighting. And Rahul plays Regirock, which is fighting. Dunsparce will remove its weakness, though. However, Stoutland can only attack for 4 energies. And do 200 and damage itself. So, to 10. So, it would go to 180 HP after attacking. And then a Choice Belted Gigas or a Choice Belted Drago would be able to knock it out essentially in one shot from there as well. So Stoutland is an awful attacker in this matchup. So it's a liability in that way, and it's a liability for being weak to Regirock. So, yeah, definitely not ideal to start that. Ooh, looks like Pedro just attaches powerful colorless and passes too. These turns are going by very fast. They do have 12 minutes left, which isn't a lot of time for a game 3, but with the pace of play that these players are doing, it might happen. Looks like Rahul is probably going to run away with this game at this point. Just because Pedro did not get his VStar power turn 2. I know the path is in play, but you'd hope that there's more going on in Pedro's hand. Rahul's definitely not going to be able to Marnie him, because he'll know that Pedro's hand is just not that good if that's all he's doing is drawing and passing. Looks like we're putting a second Lugia down and passing yet again. Oh, this is very unfortunate for Pedro here. Ooh, and Rahul is able to use the trekking shoes to find another path to the peak, so even if this one gets discarded, he could just play another one. He is able to one-shot that Stoutland, just as I said. He already has the 2... Oh man, he already has the 2 Aurora energies in the discard pile to be able to attack with any of his Regis. And yeah, this is pretty much nightmare scenario for Pedro. Rahul was just able to hard attach 3 turns in a row and use that as retreat cost. Yes, Pedro has to do something this turn or he just straight up loses. But giving Rahul the 2 prize lead that fast is just not good. Before you've even put your Archeops into play. Oof. Big oof indeed. Yep, and we just read the win, discarding a Lugia. He has no outs to the path to the peak. He only had a 1-card or 2-card hand. Discards the Lugia to draw 3, now has a 4-card hand. Maybe there is something in there. We do see the attach of the Twin Energy so that Regidrago can potentially become a pivot in the future. And the Regieleki is able to do its attack. Uses those Aurora energies. The Regirock was able to retreat. Regieleki comes up. We discard those Aurora energies after we put them on with the Gigas. Does snipe the bench and hit the active. So not only has Rahul already taken 2 prize cards, but he has another 3 prize cards already lined up. So yes, it is 100% necessary to get Manaphy down on this turn. If he doesn't, he loses. He'll be behind 5 prize cards, and at that point you don't recover from being behind 5 prize cards very often. Only back in the formats that had N. Although in this format, it's a lot more about board presence than it is about what's in your hand. Decks like Mew have all of their Genesects. that allow them to draw more cards. Lugia, all it really needs to do is attach energy every turn, which it accomplishes with the Archeops. So yeah, a lot of the times the cards in your hand do not matter. That's why Lugia is so free to be able to just bench Luminion multiple turns in a row and just use it to get tech supporters. Because really all you need is that Archeops to charge up the Luminion, and then you can loop them. We do see an Evo Incense. We are finally getting the Lugia VStar. If we see a second double turbo come down, so I don't believe that one was attached this turn, we might be able to see an attack and discard of the stadium, but we already know Rahul has another Path to the Peak in hand. Very unfortunate. We do see another Ultra Ball here. Ultra Ball is going to be able to discard that Raikou and the Aurora Energy, which will get the Pumpkaboo to discard the Path to the Peak. Now Pedro will be able to get out his double Archeops, but I do feel like it might be little too late. Looks like he also only has one Archeops in his discard pile. Oh no. Rahul is probably drooling right now. Yeah, so I effectively call this game over. He is attacking with a 2-prizer, and Rahul has 2 prizes left. That Reg Ice is coming up. Immediate benching of another, oh god, another Alecki, so that Ice can get fully powered up. Yeah, I would just slap the Choice Belt here, just get the damage down. The damage boost from the Choice Belt doesn't really matter that much. You do now, what, 100? With the Ice, and then Lugia will not be able to attack into it next turn. It'll be able to discard the Path, but it'll do 0 damage to Regice. So yeah, just very, very unfortunate situation for Pedro. He just kind of bricked this game. I know I said that Lugia's cards in hand don't matter, but they certainly do the first couple of turns. Once you get those Archeops in play, it becomes a little bit less of a factor. But yep, we do hit for 100. There is 140 damage now on that Lugia. That is halfway to knockout. And Rahul has those last 2 prize cards for the match in sight, with still 6 minutes left on the clock. Pedro can no longer attack with this Lugia, not only because it is heavily damaged, but also because the Regice is blocking it, pretty much. So Pedro's only option is to get another Pokemon on the bench to power up with Archeops in order to one-shot this Regice. Unfortunately, it looks like his next Pokemon he is choosing is the Oranguru. We already saw that the Raikou is down. The Evital, I believe, was already down too, unless that was a different game. I can't remember. They all blur together. So yeah, this is looking awful for Pedro because he has to attack with Archeops this turn. Either that, or he has to boss his orders one of the benched Regis up and hit that with the Lugia and just hope that Rahul doesn't have another Regi to bench. No, looks like he's going in for the Archeops. So yeah, we're gonna just hope that Rahul bricks from here, but I don't believe so. It looks like he already has the boss's orders in hand and the Quick Ball. He's gonna be able to Quick Ball for his Regice that was just put in the discard pile, essentially. He now has all the Regis he needs. He powers up with the Aurora Energies, boss's orders, and takes the game. That game was very clean for Rahul. He was able to win that in a very seemingly convincing fashion, even though he did lose one game. But that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Rahul was able to scoop exactly when he needed to. He knew exactly when. I always talk about how you need to know when to scoop. So Rahul did do that very well. Rahul is one of those players that just never does well at tournaments, but goes to all of them. And I do know for a fact that he does do well at this tournament. And I don't know how he's doing well with Reggie, but, you know, I mean, I guess more power to him in that case. But hope you guys enjoyed. Do not forget to feed the YouTube algorithm. Hit that like button down below if you want to see more videos like this. Subscribe if you want to see these in your feed. And do not forget to follow the Twitch, because I am streaming and doing other stuff. There's the Instagram, the Discord, the Twitter, the TikTok, and all that other good stuff. Now we'll see you guys next time.